But joining me before that is Brendan Chilton, who's a Labour Borough Councillor and the leader of the Ashford Borough Labour Group. Brendan, great to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much for joining us. So, realistically, we have a poll at the moment that would show around 50% of people say they would vote for Labour if there was a general election tomorrow. But I want to know, what are people actually really voting for? So when it comes to things like, for example, the small boats crisis, how has Labour actually said they're going to sort that out?
Good afternoon, Patrick, and thanks for having me on. The last report I read of Keir Starmer on this issue was that he said the real issue here is that we're not tackling the migrant crisis upstream. It comes to prevalence in the UK media when we see the boats crossing the channel, but actually the root cause of this is much further away. The people traffickers operating in Europe. To get some sort of resolution on that, what really needs to happen is that the Prime Minister of the UK, the President of France and other European nations need a coordinated response to dealing with these traffickers. And if you remember, about a year ago, when we had the tragedy of the boat sinking in the Channel, the very next day, around 4 gang leaders were arrested and locked up in France. So it can be done.
It can.
You just need the political will and cooperation to do it.
Yeah, my concern with this would be, I think, frankly, what the Tories are facing at the minute, which is what our strategy needs to rely on is the goodwill of other nations. And if we're now the final destination for a lot of these people who, dare I say it, well, France clearly don't want them in their country, a lot of them do they, and other European nations, realistically, how are we going to end up stopping them? But I want to just move on from that, because levelling up, certainly we have a load of viewers and listeners in the north, and they, I think, rightly so a lot of the time, open their curtains and don't see much evidence of levelling up. We hear a lot about strikes and nightmares on the London Underground. I mean, good grief, you try travelling from Hull to Leeds or somewhere like that, it's an absolute shocker. So what is the Labour Party going to do to actually help with levelling up?
Well, the levelling up agenda, really, by the government is going around the country with a giant checkbook, just giving out money to projects. To level up, what we need to do is get our economy growing. And the Labour Party have said that one of the things it would do in government, first of all, is to cut VAT, to put more money in the pockets of consumers and hauliers. It will reform business rates to make it more competitive for businesses in high streets, and a massive devolution of power to the regions of England and Wales. Now, that alone will not just grow the economy. One of the other things we need to do is start making more in the United Kingdom, because manufacturing is key to productivity gains. You get higher gains in that sector. Rachel Reeves has outlined a plan for reviving manufacturing in this country, the Make More in Britain agenda, which involves new plants and machinery, tax incentives for investment in manufacturing. That is key to levelling up, not just splashing money on pet projects.
Yeah, I get that. And I think some of the pet project stuff is symptomatic of a sticking plaster government, and it's just like, here's something big and shiny now, and in some cases it doesn't even actually get off the ground, does it? So it will be interesting to see people. And I think a lot of people will resonate with the idea of bringing manufacturing back home. The coronavirus pandemic highlighted a lot of that. Being reliant on, dare I say it, of all people, China for a lot of manufacturing is, I think, a bad thing. But you mentioned an agenda there. Can I talk to you quickly about gender, please? Because Keir Starmer, as it currently stands, can't really tell me or you or anyone what a woman is. And in light of one of the harrowing cases that we covered yesterday about a double rapist potentially being sent to a women's jail, I think it's a problem. Keir Starmer's missing out on the woman's vote, is he not?
Well, I think, obviously, Patrick, this case is one of the most appalling. The fact that the person was even being considered to be housed in an all-women prison. I think the Shadow Home Secretary today has said that she should not be. And I think Labour supported the government supporting the Scottish Secretary in preventing the gender bill going through the Scottish Parliament. I think this is really quite a simple one. There are 2 genders, men and women. And in 100 years' time, when you and I are gone and they dig us up, they will say we were 2 blokes. And if, heaven forbid, one of your producers
you can say it, I can say it, everybody else seems to say it. Crucially, scientists can say it as well. But I just can't help but wonder whether or not the Labour leader needs to do a little bit more on this. But we'll have to wait and see. Brendan, always enjoy our chats. Thank you very much. Brendan Chilton now is a Labour Borough Councillor and leader of the Ashford Borough Labour Group. He's also a keen Brexiteer as well, for what it's worth.